Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Welcome to episode 3 of a BooMSh, a series where I share personal stories in conjunction with content from a book, a movie, and a show. Today's episode is titled Mito, It's Okay Not to Be Okay. And as the title suggests, the story is narrated around the character Mito from DPR IAN's Ep3 Mito and the kdrama It's Okay Not to Be Okay. This episode tackles the power of expression, how we can use various artistic media to channel the rather negative energy within us. It's Okay Not to Be Okay is a 16-episode 2020 South Korean TV series written by Gyu-young and directed by Park Shin-woo. It stars Kim Soo-hyun, Yea-ji, Jung-se, and Park Gyu-young. The series follows Ko Moon-young, an antisocial children's book writer, and Moon Gang-tae, a psychiatric caretaker with an autistic older brother, Moon Sang-tae. The drama is around the themes of mental unwellness, trauma, empathy, healing, and identity. For the most part, I found this drama difficult to watch because I detested the female lead's extremely selfish, rude, aggressive, and manipulative behavior. There are points where I related with her, and an overwhelming more where I was unsettled by her character, which did not seem to be addressed throughout the drama. I, however, appreciate that the drama showed how healing is a journey. It did well in portraying 3 damaged, broken, emotionally defected people, all in different ways, intensities, and capacities. I like that the story does not take away from the suffering of those around these people. It shows how the staff suffers from the female lead's inconsiderateness, for example, and how the male lead depicts moments of utter exhaustion from taking care of his autistic brother. While I was reading up on the drama, I came across the mind behind the story as shared by the writer. Turns out she once was in a relationship with a person who had a personality disorder, but didn't know how to be with them, so she wrote the story as a way of saying sorry, from which she found healing. After reading that, some choices in the portrayal of characters added up, and I low-key felt guilty because I was very agitated by the female lead that I could not fathom being that patient or empathetic to someone as rude, manipulative, and abusive regardless of their illness, which I think was the point of the drama. What stood out the most for me, though, were the storybooks. I appreciated the fact that the female lead drew inspiration from her own traumatic experiences to write such simple but impactful stories. The illustrations and packaging of rather dark experiences into very simple language made for powerful expressions and a lasting impression on me. As a creative, it got me thinking about how I could embody my sentiments in fictional characters and create a world where the story ends differently from the reality that perhaps inspired it. Sometimes we may not get closure like we need or desire to. It's through these other worlds that we can abstract those feelings of incompleteness and arrive to a conclusion of thought through creative expression. My take home was the power of storytelling, how telling/retelling our experiences, whether through illustrations, writing, or film, is in itself therapy. A friend asked me after posting a BooMSh episode 2 why I'm sharing such personal stories on a very public platform like YouTube. He was wondering if I don't have any concerns of being misunderstood or the viewer having a perception different from mine concerning my experience. For example, in episode 2, when telling the story of my near-death experience, I expressed how my escape was divine and he thought the attackers just didn't want to kill us that night. And for a while, I pondered on an appropriate answer for his question, which I hope this episode can be. This storytelling is a long process that involves journaling, planning, writing, editing. It is literally going over the story again and again, so it's confrontational in its nature. It occurred to me that the primary reason I do this, why I make these videos or write the stories I write even away from YouTube, is for me. The whole sharing is therapy in itself, in the way that I'm letting out that pent-up negative energy. I'm converting it into a form of art, just as the writer of It's Okay Not to Be Okay, or with DPR IAN in his music and visuals. And the thing about sharing is, while we primarily do it for us, that healing impact tends to ripple to the consumers of the art. It does the same thing to somebody who has gone through a similar situation. It helps one confront their fear or their challenge or limitation, and in doing so helps clarify emotions, thoughts, feelings, and consequently aids in finding a solution, because what's being dealt with becomes clearer, making it easy to search for help. You don't have to resort to destructive ways to release. You can do that through your art, one step at a time. Which brings us to Mito. Mito is a fictional character, a personification of DPR IAN's experiences in struggling with the emotional extremes of bipolar disorder. The character was first introduced in DPR IAN's debut EP, Mood Swings in This Order, an 8-song EP released on March 12, 2021, with 2 pre-released singles, So Beautiful and No Blueberries. Mito has been further expanded in IAN's first studio album, Mood Swings Into Order, a 12-track record released on July 29, 2022, accompanied by a 2-part short film. I'll be talking more on the EP than the album because I conceptualized this episode around the EP. That was in October 2021 and started working on it in Feb 2022. I know. DPR IAN, Rom, Barom, Christian Yu, who for the rest of the episode I shall be referring to as Christian, is a Korean-Australian singer, songwriter, producer, visual director, editor, and founder of DPR, Dream Perfect Regime, a multi-genre music and video artist collective that focuses on engaging all audiences by actualizing a distinctive audiovisual experience. Christian started out in a K-pop group called C-Clown that debuted in July 2012, where he was leader, main rapper, and main dancer. At the time, he went by the name Rom. The group later disbanded in October 2015, and although he was unable to appear in front of the camera until his contract with the agency had expired, he used the time to nurture his love for videography, from whence DPR was birthed. I came across Christian soon after I got into K-pop. There was a lot of talk about him and I had to check him out. I went for the looks and I stayed for his work. I started following him on Instagram and I was greatly inspired by his IGTV pieces. It was stunning how he brought the soul of the stories he told in the camera angles, the lighting, the way he played with color and sound. His editing was something else. I was hooked. Then I got to learn of the music videos he had directed and edited. I was oozing with respect and admiration for the man to this day. As a matter of fact, my then newly found active interest in filmmaking was for the most part inspired by him. When I got into K-pop, BTS's sets, stages, and stories made me want to pursue design in the direction of performance, and watching Christian direct and edit his work awoke the filmmaker in me. So I showed up to whatever filmmaking opportunities there were after uni. I joined filmmaking communities where I expanded my social and creative circles. I met very amazing people and I got to learn so much and grow as a person and as a creative. So I'm glad I did that. I have been wanting to work with Christian since I saw his work because I know there's so much I could learn from him and his team. I remember sending out messages asking if there were any kinds of internships or the like. And an indirect response in one of his IG lives was that the team was still small and they were only still growing. So I'm glad I have acquired some knowledge and skilling in filmmaking. Whenever that time comes, when an opportunity to work together and collaborate presents itself, I'm ready. What made Christian extra special for me were his Instagram lives. My mind tends to be all over the place and I find myself quite restless. I think too much and I end up losing sleep over my thoughts, which disrupts my sleep pattern and consequently throws me off the productivity line I painstakingly managed to grab a hold onto. So I tend to struggle getting back to orderliness. I think the bigger progress I've made over the years is acknowledging that I get moments of feeling low. So I'm aware of the fact that it's a temporary situation and I don't dwell on it too much. I've learned to not equate my worth to the feelings of hopelessness I experience in such periods. Over time, I've learned what helps me through those moments, what aids to keep me in one piece when going through those very dull, dragging, uninspired periods, especially the nights, is my playlists. I usually play soft music, summons, or Christians' Instagram lives. I'd like to take this moment to appreciate and thank the fans who relentlessly record these lives and upload them on YouTube. You may not see it, but you are serving lives and changing the world with that act of service. May the Lord bless you and may you be increased in all aspects of your lives. Through Christian's IG lives, I got to know the person behind the beautiful face and inspiring works. I found him encouraging, relatable, accessible, available. So it's always lovely listening to him because he always has profound thoughts, valuable advice from his inexhaustive life experiences, and his enthusiasm shines through. Is even contagious amidst all of his crackheadedness. The nature of his IG lives is very laid back, very cozy, very calm, especially because he tends to go live around the wee hours of the night. So listening to him feels like hearing from a friend, like catching up, like encouraging and rooting for each other. My prevalent love language is words of affirmation. I suppose that's why I appreciate his words so much, because I feel refueled just by listening to him. The IG lives were particularly significant to me during the restrictive times of the pandemic because I, at some point, was experiencing night terrors at an alarming rate. They were happening a lot more frequently than I had ever experienced before, which got me extremely scared because I thought I was beginning to run mad. I had this thing that kept happening to me. It started when I was young, around the age of 9, I think. I could be sleeping and I see a figure, but I was not sure if it's a dream or reality. And before my mind could process what it is, I could find myself taken over by fear and shocked out of sleep by a very loud scream. So I wake up panting, scared to death, sweating heavily, distorted, only to find the lights on with my family surrounding me asking, "What's wrong?" But the problem could be, I could be wondering the same. What is wrong? What's going on? I had somebody scream. And then that somebody turns out to be me. So as I grew, the experience just got more graphic, more real, and more scary. And during the pandemic, I lost it. I was screaming night after night, frightened to death, to the extent that I feared to sleep. I had just graduated when the lockdown in my country happened. I had a lot of plans that just got messed up. My dad fell critically ill, amongst other things, and that was just like the tip of the iceberg. I literally had my back against the wall, but I suppressed all of that frustration and stress. I was a mess internally, which I think manifested in my subconscious. All of that pent-up energy found expression in those night terrors. It was during those moments when my heart was racing, when my reality was distorted, when I was afraid of everything around me, curled up in my bed, tears rolling down my face, my clothes drenched in sweat, afraid to close my eyes. It was in those moments that I could play Christian's IG lives. I found solace in his stories. His words carried great depth that I resonated with and was encouraged by, and his voice rang with reassurance, imparting serenity to my troubled mind to the point of resting again. Through those IG lives, I was able to find company when I needed company. The thing is, when I was younger and I could get frightened and any of my big sisters is around, they would like come by and comfort me. And like the earlier times, one of my big sisters would even come and share my bed with me so that I feel less scared. Or other times I would go to my mom and tell her I'm scared. But the difference now is that I'm an adult, and you know when something happens continuously, so people get over it, like again or not again. And like I'm an adult in my mid-20s, and I just couldn't go to any of my siblings and be like, can I share the bed with you? I'm scared. I was grown and I didn't want to bother anyone, so I could like keep to myself and try to calm myself down, which was really difficult. So what helped with Christian's IG lives is that he talks he talks the whole time. It's like an hour plus of him talking, so it felt safe, like somebody was by my side, just keeping my mind active or like engaging me, and I felt comforted that way. That's why I used to play his IG lives because it was conversation after conversation, moving from one topic to another, sometimes saying really disconnected things. It was funny, and then him sharing about his own struggles. The IG lives were comforting that way, and that's why I used to play them. When Mito was released, Christian shared in several IG lives the place from which he created Mito, which empowered me to look into my own monsters. On one of those terrifying nights while listening to Christian, it occurred to me to Google my experience. At the time, I didn't know it was a disorder, neither did I know it was referred to as night or sleep terrors. And although it's rare in adults, it turns out there were other people who had experienced the same. I suddenly didn't feel so alone anymore, and I was relieved to know I was not losing my sanity. I learned a few things here and there about the sleep disorder, which led me to think deeply about my night terrors and their possible causes. I started to look at myself and my surroundings more critically so as to avoid possible triggers, and I must say, I have had better sleep since. I still get frightened by random monster-looking things, but this time my mind takes a lot shorter to process that it's not real, so I end up not screaming regardless of being scared. Progress. The creation of Mito, as presented in the EP and the album, vividly captures the dark, gruesome, vulnerable, weak, mighty, chaotic, sickening, beautiful aspects of what could be termed as a tragedy. Christian did great with the visuals. They profoundly materialized the feelings of disorientation. In the distorted images, the camera angles, the color choices, the sets, the outfits, the makeup, I could feel the struggle and I could relate to it. But where he was telling of an emptiness, I could hear it loud in my soul. Mito, both the EP and the album, are audiovisual masterpieces which have been a rather spiritual experience for me. I was certain of Christian's prowess when it comes to visuals, and I wasn't so sure about his musicality because I hadn't encountered him as a musician yet. But when I listened to the albums full on, it was magical. The songs are not just songs. There's a lot of detail and layers to the elements that bring together the song, and I love how he plays with his voice. The lyrics are poetry and narration and words that anchor to an emotion, that anchor to a feeling, and the whole composition is not just words to melody or melody to words. They are so intertwined, very intricate, very holistic. Going back to the reply of why I share these stories, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. When you listen through the BooMSh episodes so far, yes, they all talk about some dark stuff, but they are more like testimonials of how I overcame those ugly situations I found myself in. And looking at Mito, this is an overcomer story in my perspective. I think my favorite song is So Beautiful. At first I thought I was drawn to it simply because of the smoothness of the sound, those beautiful instrumentals, and the ability to capture gruesomeness in the image of Mito. But beyond that, I realized that that was the point in self-discovery or self-awareness. Getting to a place where you acknowledge and accept your shadow rather than fighting it. And knowing where Christian drew from when creating this, I was inspired by his courage, honestly. That particular piece inspired courage in me to face my own fears. I then understood what the DPR bio meant by audiovisual experience. For me, Christian's Mito is the embodiment of power. It's that point of growth, that turning point where you stop running from this thing that has been chasing you all your life and you chase it instead. Where fear ceases to own you and you own it instead. Where regardless of the terror, you control the narrative. Mito is the bright side of the downside, the proof of a silver lining on a dark cloud, the solace that it's okay not to be okay, and that you can still make something of that low and fly off of it. I was inspired to keep putting these personal stories out there because in as hard as it is, it's healing. It's like going on a very long journey where you keep shedding bits of yourself, and at the end of it, you emerge lighter of spirit, which reflects in your eyes, your skin, your smile, and the quality of your sleep. Christian, if you're watching this, hi, I'm Kara, a great admirer of yours. I was very much drawn to your stories and how you so poetically share bits of yourself and your perspective of the world. I aspire to create simple and captivating works as yours. I've been following you and DPR since 2017. I've always had this desire to be some sort of visual storyteller, but I wasn't exactly sure of the whys, whats, and hows. Your work brought a lot of things to light and ignited some sparks in me. I'm actually here to report my progress. I joined this cool filmmaking community called Afridom, now Calavas, where I learned a bounty full of the whys, whats, hows. We even made a student film Downside Up, where I had the privilege of being art director and possibly launched my acting career too. I got certified in cinematography techniques and some other workshop, and I participated in production design here and there. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being you and keep being you. I love you and I look forward to consuming a lot more awesome work from you, even beyond Mito, because I know there's so much you have to offer. I look forward to it. Be healthy in body, mind, and spirit. I look forward to working with you someday soon. I love you. Creating/making art is like taking a picture when you're out with your friends by the beach as the sun sets. That picture captures the spirit of that moment, and your experience that day can always be felt, however mild, by whoever sees the picture, whenever. But deeper than that, there's a healing power in expressing yourself artistically, authentically. The law of conservation of energy. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only converted from one form of energy to another. I think the task here is how to convert that energy in you from the form it's in to a form of art. Feel free to do some soul searching, go for workshops, join communities of your interest, volunteer where you could learn a new skill or exercise the knowledge you already have. Find a mentor if you can, or follow the people whose work you admire and learn from them, the way I follow Christian. I've shared a bunch of links to Christian's interviews in the description. There's a series he did with Dre, where he went in detail on the creation process of mood swings into order, which I think is quite insightful. Go check it out. I also wrote an article on the significance of art spaces in the post-COVID society. The article highlights an impactful experience I had at an art salon where my friend Ivor was exhibiting. Actually, there's this character in his pieces called Mr. Smiley, who reminds me a lot of Mito and Mr. Insanity. Mr. Smiley's world and Mito's world have a number of similarities, and it's interesting because I think they were both created around the same time in completely different physical worlds. You can check out Ivor's art on his IG handle in the description. Alright, thank you for making it to the end of the video. My love to you. See you in the next video. Tulabagane. Bye.